The KTG166-R replaces the piston and valve seals along with all of the O-rings inside the G1Single. The kit includes the valves, springs, and O-rings to rebuild the valve plate, and the seals, O-rings, and slide ring to rebuild the piston. Here is a list of necessary and recommended tools for a successful repair. Begin the repair by turning the machine on its side. Next, remove the 4 case screws. Lightly strike and pry the case half to remove it. Remove the fan shroud. Remove the other case half. Use the motor support brackets to stabilize the machine. Cut and remove the wire ties. Unplug the white and red wires from the pressure switch. Turn the machine onto its other side. Unplug the wire numbered 3 from the power switch. Turn the machine right side up. Remove the knurled flare fitting. Next, loosen and remove the faceplate screw. Remove the faceplate and set aside. Unplug the remaining wire from the pressure switch. Remove one of the motor support brackets. Loosen and remove the cylinder head bolts. Note the different lengths of the bolts, the short bolts being towards the back and the long bolts towards the front. Remove the cylinder head and the valve plate. Remove the cylinder. Remove the copper shims, but do not discard them. Remove the piston slide ring. Gently cut the piston seal, being careful not to scratch the anodizing of the piston. Remove the piston O-ring. Wipe the piston head clean. Check the piston head sealing surfaces for damage. If the piston head is damaged, contact Appion directly. Be sure to only clamp the slide seal surface when removing the piston head. Avoid clamping the ring lands as this can permanently damage the piston. Loosen the piston head with modified locking V-jaw vice grips. Fully remove the piston head. Light markings in this groove are okay. Sometimes the shaft will come out with the piston head. We will cover this reinstallation of the piston head later in this video. Clean the shaft threads of the dried threadlocker. Use the pick to break any tough debris from the shaft. Remove the plates and note the orientation. The thicker plate will sit on top of the thinner plate, as shown. Use a pick to clean the inner threads of dried threadlocker. Remove the O-rings from the upper plate. Check the plates to ensure they aren't bent. If the plates are bent, contact Appion directly. Remove the O-ring from the cylinder. Wipe the cylinder clean. Inspect the surface and inside of the cylinder for any scratches or excessive wear. A damaged cylinder may not fully seal and could leak when reassembled. If the cylinder is damaged, contact Appion directly. Remove the old valves and spring from the valve plate. Use wire cutters to cut off the tip of the input valve. Discard all worn springs, seals, and valves. Inspect the surface and edges of the valve plate. It's important that the sealing surfaces between the valve and the valve plate are smooth. If it is damaged, contact Appion directly. Remove all springs, seals, and valves from the cylinder head. Inspect the cylinder head for deep scratches and damage. Note that one O-ring is gray while the other is black. The black ring will be used with the cylinder head, while the gray will be used for the piston seal plates. Lubricate the O-rings with clean vacuum pump oil. Fit the O-rings together and install them in the thick upper plate, then set the plates to the side. Apply clean vacuum pump oil to the O-ring grooves. Install the new O-rings. Install the wider spring into the cylinder head with the narrow end down. Install the new input valve. It's necessary to thread the spring on the valve until it has completely cleared the lip. Use a pair of needle-nosed pliers to crimp and twist the input spring's smallest coil to ensure it does not slip over the input valve catch lip. Apply clean vacuum pump oil to the O-ring groove. Install the new O-ring. Install the new output valve. Apply clean vacuum pump oil to the cylinder O-ring groove. Install the new cylinder O-ring. Next, stack the two plates with the thin plate on the bottom, then reinstall onto the shaft as shown. Be sure the shaft seals in the thick upper plate stay seated during this step. Apply a drop of green threadlocker to the shaft threads. Reinstall the piston head. Tighten with locking V-jaw vice grips. If the shaft came out with the piston head during removal, follow these steps. Clean the shaft threads of dried threadlocker. Stack the plates with the thin plate on the bottom, then reinstall onto the shaft as shown. Be sure the shaft seals in the thick upper plate stay seated during this step. Add a drop of green threadlocker to the shaft threads. Reinstall the piston head and shaft. Then fully tighten with locking V-jaw vice grips. Install the new piston slide seal. Install the new O-ring. Install the new upper piston seal by rolling it on with a pen or a soft, smooth object. Reinstall the copper shims. Apply clean vacuum pump oil to the inside of the cylinder, then reinstall onto the piston. Align the notches on the valve plate and cylinder head. Then reinstall the valve plate into the cylinder head. Next, reinstall the cylinder head with the relay towards the pressure switch. Apply a drop of blue threadlocker to the cylinder head bolts. Reinstall the bolts, but do not fully tighten. Partially hand tighten the cylinder head bolts in a crisscross pattern. Rotate the fan by hand to float the cylinder into place. Use a torque wrench to tighten the bolts to 40 inch-pounds, tightening in a crisscross pattern. Rotate the fan by hand to ensure no binding is occurring. Reinstall the faceplate over the gauges. Add a drop of blue threadlocker to the faceplate screw. Reinstall the screw, but do not fully tighten. Install a new filter screen into the knurled flare fitting. Reinstall the knurled flare fitting. Next, support the machine with a second motor support bracket. Turn the machine on its side. Plug the number 3 wire into the power switch. Turn the machine on its other side. Plug the black wire into the pressure switch. Then, plug the red and white wire into the pressure switch. If the wire isn't grabbing, crimp it with needle nose pliers. Install new wire ties. Place the machine into the case half. Next, align the support bracket groove with the motor case bolt, then install. Repeat this for the other bracket. Ensure the tabs are not overlapping the motor case. Reinstall the fan shroud. Reinstall the other case half. Lightly strike the case to fully seat. Ensure the faceplate and fan shroud are properly seated in the case grooves. Next, fully tighten the 4 case screws. Fully tighten the faceplate screw. Quickly turn the machine on and off to check for any fan rubbing. Lastly, always perform a bench test to ensure a successful repair. With this easy repair, you can bring your G1Single back to working like new. If you have any questions about any repair, don't hesitate to reach out to Appion directly.